Clark is getting back on the golf course again this offseason, participating in the Annika golf outing. And she has a couple of caddies that are going to be taking the course alongside her in the form of Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull. Sophie and Lexie kind of called this shot, or especially Sophie did, back before when it was first announced that Caitlin was going to do this event. Again,
Caitlin Clark just got 2 caddies for her golf tournament, and one of them is Sophie Cunningham. You know, the player everyone thought was leaving the Indiana Fever. Now she's out here carrying golf clubs for Clark. Meanwhile, the whole WNBA offseason got so quiet, it feels like the league went to sleep. Has a sports league ever gotten so boring that you almost forgot it was even around? Tell me what you think in the comments.
You could get into the comments section. You see there's Caitlin Clark with Nelly Korda, who, was impressed with Caitlin's poise on the golf course last year, even with the crowds, and said she got into women's basketball because of Caitlin. Sophie Cunningham says, Caitlin Clark need a couple of caddies. Lexie Hull with the smiling face or whatever that is and some beer cheers. And Lexie Hull says, sign us up. And you thought that was the end of it, right? At least I did. I did not think we'd be revisiting that. Just felt like the cute little remnants of the Instagram comments section. But it is actually happening.
So, here's the deal. Caitlin Clark is playing in a celebrity golf tournament, which is the kind of thing athletes do in the off-season when they're not busy practicing or doing other stuff athletes do when nobody is looking. And for this tournament, she needed caddies. Not just any caddies, but special guest caddies who could make the whole thing way more fun for fans and the media.
We also have the GOAT, Caitlin Clark, bringing Lexie Hull and Sophie Cunningham along for the ride as golf caddies at her golf tournament coming.
Enter Lexie Hull and Sophie Cunningham. 2 of Caitlin's teammates from the Indiana Fever showed up to spend a day on the golf course carrying clubs and giving tips about which iron to use. On the surface, this looks like a fun little off-season thing. Players hanging out, doing something light and easy, showing they get along off the court, normal stuff. But here's where it gets juicy. Sophie Cunningham's future with the Indiana Fever hasn't been clear. People have been wondering if she'll stay on the team, if she's happy there, and if the team really wants to keep her. And during all this uncertainty, the Fever's social media barely talked about Sophie, like almost nothing, which made fans think something might be happening behind the scenes.
Now taking her talents to the golf course, where she will join Clark for the Annika Pro-Am tournament next week. Unlike Clark, however, Cunningham will not play in the tournament. She and Fever teammate Lexie Hull have committed to be Clark's guest.
So, when Sophie shows up as Caitlin's caddy at this golf tournament, suddenly everyone starts thinking, maybe this means she's staying with the Fever. Maybe it shows the relationships are good. Maybe it's proof the team is going to keep her. Or maybe it just means Sophie didn't have anything else to do that day and thought carrying golf clubs sounded fun. Who knows?
Caitlin Clark has opened up the opportunity for both Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull to be a part of this huge non-basketball event. So again, when you talk about Caitlin Clark opening things up for other people, it's not just on the basketball court. That is the kind of influence.
The announcement came from Game Bridge, which is connected to the Indiana franchises and the Fever organization. They posted that Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull would be caddying for Caitlin Clark alongside professional golfer Nelly Korda and Lauren Yen. The event is set for November 12th, giving fans about a week to get excited about watching basketball players pretend to know about golf. And look, this should be a bigger deal than it is. A year ago, if you told people that Caitlin Clark was playing in a celebrity golf tournament and her teammates were going to be her caddies, it would have been everywhere. National news, trending on social media, articles written about it. The whole thing would have been a massive event. But now it's just kind of happening and most people don't seem to care that much. Which brings us to the real story here. The WNBA off-season has been incredibly quiet. The league that was everywhere last year, breaking viewership records, selling out arenas, getting constant media coverage, has basically disappeared from public conversation. And that's a problem. Think about where we were a year ago. Caitlin Clark was still in college, but the anticipation around her joining the WNBA was massive. Every game she played got millions of viewers. Every interview she did became a talking point. People who had never watched women's basketball were suddenly interested. The league was riding a wave of momentum that felt like it could change everything. Then the season happened. Caitlin joined the Fever, brought huge attention to the league, and things were going well. Viewership was up, attendance was up, merchandise sales were through the roof. But somewhere along the way, the momentum died. And now in the off-season, when teams should be building on that interest and keeping fans engaged, everything has gone quiet. Part of the problem is that there's just nothing happening. No major trades, no big announcements, no storylines to follow. The off-season in any sports league can be slow. But the WNBA needed to keep the energy going. They had new fans, casual fans who were interested but not yet committed. Those fans needed reasons to stay engaged. Instead, they got silence. The other problem is how the league handled Caitlin Clark during the season. There was constant negativity, constant criticism, constant drama around her. Other players made comments. Analysts questioned her impact. People debated whether she deserved the attention she was getting. And for new fans watching all of this, it was exhausting. They came to watch basketball and ended up in the middle of some weird cultural battle that had nothing to do with the actual games. Someone who works in NBA media apparently said it's become problematic in the WNBA to not hate Caitlin Clark, which is wild. In the NBA, if you're constantly hating on LeBron James like Skip Bayless does, you're known as a troll. But you're still part of the conversation. In the WNBA, apparently the public perception is that if you're not constantly criticizing Caitlin, you're a bad person. That's not a healthy environment for a league trying to grow. And that's probably why so many fans checked out. They didn't want to deal with all the drama and negativity. They just wanted to watch good basketball and support players they liked. Instead, they got a league that seemed more interested in internal conflicts than building on its momentum. Now, we're in the off-season, and the interest has tanked. Things that would have been huge stories a year ago barely get attention now. Caitlin playing golf with her teammates as caddies should be a fun story that keeps fans engaged. Instead, it's just a minor blip that most people won't even notice. The Sophie Cunningham angle is interesting, though. She's genuinely been one of the more important pieces for the Fever. She brings shooting, toughness, and experience. She's the kind of veteran presence that a young team needs. But there's been this weird situation where some fans want her gone for reasons that have nothing to do with basketball, which is exactly the kind of nonsense that's been plaguing the league. The fact that Sophie is showing up as Caitlin's caddy could be seen as a positive sign. Maybe it means she's happy with the team. Maybe it means relationships are strong. Maybe it means the Fever are going to prioritize keeping her. Or maybe it means absolutely nothing and she's just being a good teammate by helping out at a golf tournament. Reading too much into these things is how we end up with more drama. Lexie Hall being there makes sense. She's been Caitlin's teammate. They have a good relationship and she seems like someone who'd be up for a fun off-season activity. No drama there, just a player supporting her teammate at an event. But the whole situation highlights how much things have changed in just 1 year. Last season, anything involving Caitlin Clark became a massive story. She couldn't do anything without it being analyzed, discussed, and debated. Now she's playing in a celebrity golf tournament with her teammates, and it's barely registering with the general public. Part of that is natural. The novelty wears off, people move on to other things. Sports have cycles of interest. But the WNBA can't afford that kind of drop-off. They needed to convert those casual fans into committed fans. They needed to keep the momentum going. Instead, they let it slip away. The comment about Paige Booker's fans being K-pop stans who just retweet things with Sabrina Carpenter profile pictures but don't actually watch games is pretty accurate. There's a lot of social media noise around women's basketball that doesn't translate to actual viewership or attendance. Those metrics matter more than trending hashtags. And right now, those metrics are down. The idea that if Lexie Hull had been announced as Caitlin's caddy a year ago, it would have been national news is probably true. Everything was news then. Every connection between players, every off-season activity, every social media post got attention. Now it's just another thing happening that most people aren't paying attention to. And that's unfortunate for everyone involved. The players worked hard to build that momentum. Caitlin Clark specifically brought so much attention to the league, but that attention wasn't properly managed or sustained. Now we're in this weird place where the offs feels dead, and the excitement that existed just months ago seems like a distant memory. The golf tournament itself should be fun. Caitlin's actually pretty good at golf, which makes sense given that a lot of basketball skills transfer to the golf swing. Having teammates there as caddies adds a social element that makes it more entertaining. If people actually watch or pay attention, it'll probably be a good time. But the fact that we're even questioning whether people will pay attention is the problem. This is Caitlin Clark, the player who broke viewership records, who sold out arenas, who had everyone talking about women's basketball. And now an off-season event with her teammates is something that might go unnoticed. That's a massive drop in interest in a very short time. The WNBA needs to figure out how to maintain engagement during the off-season. They need storylines, content, reasons for fans to stay connected. Other leagues do this well. The NBA off-season is almost as interesting as the regular season with free agency, trades, summer league, and constant news. The WNBA off-season has been mostly silent, and that silence is killing the momentum they worked so hard to build. Sophie Cunningham's presence at this event shouldn't be analyzed as some major clue about her future with the team. But it's being analyzed that way because there's so little else happening. When there's no real news, people start reading into every small thing. That's not healthy for the league or the players. The Fever organization social media barely posting about Sophie is weird, though. If she's an important part of the team, why aren't they promoting her more? If they want to keep her, shouldn't they be showing that she's valued? The lack of social media presence could mean nothing, or it could be a sign of something going on internally. Either way, it's created speculation that probably didn't need to exist. The broader issue is that the WNBA had something special happening and couldn't sustain it. They had mainstream attention, new fans, and momentum. But poor decisions, unnecessary drama, and a lack of engagement during the off-season has let that slip away. Now, we're back to a league that most people aren't thinking about, and that's a huge missed opportunity. Caitlin Clark playing golf with her teammates should be a fun story that keeps fans engaged during the quiet months. Instead, it's barely making waves, and that says everything about where the league's attention has gone. Hopefully, things pick up when the season approaches, but right now, the WNBA off-season feels like everyone just forgot it exists. So, Caitlin Clark got Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hall as her golf caddies, and the WNBA off-season remains as exciting as watching paint dry. A year ago, this would have been huge news. Now, it's just something that's happening while everyone's attention is elsewhere. If you enjoyed this reality check, hit that like button and subscribe for more content.